Let me begin with something most men over 60 wish they'd learned earlier in life. Not just how to be intimate, but how to be intimately understood. Because let's face it, as we get older, we often assume we should already know it all, especially when it comes to pleasing a partner. But the truth is, no one handed us a guide. No one sat us down and explained where women really want to be touched, and just as importantly, where they don't. That silence? It leads to hesitation, confusion, even disconnection. And I've seen that disconnection grow in marriages, long-term relationships, and especially in the dating lives of older men who are just now trying to reconnect with someone new. That's why I want to have this conversation with you, not just as a doctor, but as someone who's heard these stories, these struggles, and these quiet hopes from men like you for over 30 years. My name is Dr. Robert Jansen, and while I'm a urologist by training, I've spent decades talking with men and women about what really matters in intimate relationships, especially later in life. And today, I want to help you rediscover something deeply powerful: the ability to touch not just with your hands, but with attention, respect, and presence. Now, let me tell you about Frank. Frank is 72, a retired high school principal, married to Ellen for nearly 50 years. He came into my office one day not because of a medical emergency, but because he was worried. "Doc," he said, "I think Ellen's pulling away from me, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I try to be close. I try to be affectionate. But she seems tense, distant, like she's just going through the motions." That kind of quiet confusion is heartbreaking. Because Frank loves his wife. He just didn't realize that the way he was reaching out, physically, wasn't matching what she needed. So we sat down and talked. Not about medications or hormone levels, but about touch, where it lands, how it's received, what women over 60 often crave, and what they may be silently hoping we stop doing. And Frank, like many men I work with, was shocked by what he learned. Because here's the truth. Most women don't need more passion. They need more presence. They don't want rough hands or rushed movements. They want to feel seen, heard, and considered, especially in the way they're touched. Now, let's be honest here. Intimacy in your 60s, 70s, and beyond looks different than it did at 25. And that's not a bad thing. In fact, for many women, this chapter of life is where deeper emotional closeness and subtle, attentive touch mean more than any fireworks. So let's get practical. Most women over 60 are extremely sensitive to where and how they are touched. Their skin may be thinner. Their hormonal balance has shifted. They may be dealing with discomfort, dryness, or emotional blocks they don't know how to bring up. And if you, as her partner, go straight to what used to work, or what you think she wants, you might be missing her completely. Frank used to start with physical affection by reaching for her chest or thighs. Not out of disrespect, just habit. But Ellen felt startled by it, not relaxed. She told him later, "I wish you'd just hold my face first, or touch my hand. Something gentle, something that tells me you're really with me, not just wanting something from me." That was a revelation for Frank. And I'll be honest, it is for most men. Because where women want to be touched isn't always about erogenous zones. It's about the invitation into intimacy, the warm-up, the respectful presence. Often, that begins with the places that feel safe: her face, her hair, her hands, her upper back. I told Frank, "Before you touch Ellen anywhere private, try this. Place your palm on her back, between the shoulder blades, and just rest it there. No pressure, no agenda, just connection. Let her breathe. Let her decide if she wants to move closer." That kind of slow, attuned touch? It's not boring, it's masterful. And it speaks volumes. Now, if this kind of conversation is speaking to you, would you take a moment to click that like button? Subscribe if you haven't already, and tap the bell icon so you don't miss the rest of this series? And if you're feeling brave, leave a comment below with a simple "yes" if you think this message matters, or a "no" if it's still something you're unsure about. I read every comment, and it helps me guide this journey with the topics that matter most to you. Because what we're talking about here isn't just where to place your hand, it's how to offer your presence. And here's something else most women won't say out loud. They want you to ask. Not awkwardly, not with insecurity, but with calm confidence. "Does this feel good? Would you like more? Can I hold you this way?" These questions show maturity. They build trust. And more often than not, they lead to more intimacy, not less. You see, The reason so many women pull away later in life isn't because they've stopped desiring closeness. It's because they've stopped feeling safe or understood in it. Their bodies have changed, their needs have shifted, and they're craving a different kind of intimacy, one built on mutual awareness. And yes, there are also places women often don't want to be touched. Especially early in the moment. For many women over 60, the breasts, inner thighs, or even their stomach area can feel too exposed, too sensitive, or simply uncomfortable without enough emotional connection first. I've had countless women tell me, "I wish he'd stop going there right away. I need to feel loved before I feel touched that way." That doesn't mean those areas are off limits forever. But it means they're not the starting point. They're the destination of trust, earned through presence, patience, and real emotional attunement. Frank took this advice to heart. And a few weeks later, he came back to my office, visibly lighter. "Doc," he said, "Ellen started reaching for me again. She actually pulled me closer. I didn't have to push. I just slowed down. Touched her the way she wanted to be touched. That's what I want for you." Because touching a woman, especially at this stage of life, isn't about performance. It's about presence. It's not about guessing, it's about listening. And the more you tune in, the more she opens up. So tonight, if you're with your partner, or even just thinking about a future one, ask yourself, what would it look like to touch her not with expectation, but with care? Not to get something, but to give something? And how might that change everything? In the next part, we'll go even deeper into how to recognize her signals, how to know when to keep going, and when to stop, and how your energy and breath may be the most powerful tool you've never been taught to use. But for now, remember, the path to deeper intimacy doesn't start with your hands. It starts with your awareness. And you, my friend, have more power than you realize. When Frank shared that his wife, Ellen, had finally started reaching for him again, not out of habit, but out of desire, it was one of those moments that reminded me exactly why I do this work. Because truthfully, I've met too many men who carry around quiet confusion. Not about their love for their partner, but about how to connect with her body in a way that feels welcomed, wanted, even cherished. And here's the surprising truth I want you to hold onto as we continue this conversation. Intimacy isn't just about touching your partner, it's about tuning into her. And that kind of sensitivity? It can be learned at any age. Yes, even at 60, 70, or beyond. See, most men I talk to over 60 grew up in a world where physical intimacy was either rushed, performance-based, or worse, something never really talked about. And so when the body slows down or changes, as it naturally does with age, we're left wondering, am I doing something wrong? And the answer isn't always in a pill bottle. Sometimes it's in a pause, a breath, a change in how you touch and when. Let me tell you about Roger, a 68-year-old widower who recently started seeing a lovely woman named Marianne. They met at a book club, started having weekly coffee, and eventually, the relationship began to turn romantic. But Roger confessed something vulnerable to me. "Doc," he said, "I'm terrified I'll mess it up. I don't know how to read her signals. I don't want to push too fast, or too slow. It's been decades since I had to think about all this." I told Roger what I've told many men before him. Women are constantly communicating through subtle cues. Their breath, their shoulders, their eyes, the way they lean in, or pull back. And once you learn to pay attention, it's like learning a new language. One that tells you exactly where she wants to be touched, and where she doesn't. Now remember, women over 60 often carry years of experiences, some good, some painful, that live in their bodies. They may be more sensitive in certain areas due to menopause, surgery, or even emotional wounds. So the key isn't to memorize a map of hot spots. It's to become present to her body's language. With Roger, I gave him a simple exercise to build that awareness. I told him, the next time you're close with Marianne, before you even think of intimacy, just hold her hand. Not passively, really hold it. Feel how she breathes. Is it shallow? Relaxed? Watch her shoulders. Do they tighten or melt? Is she leaning toward you, or away? This kind of attunement might sound too gentle to matter, but let me tell you, it can be a game changer. Because the more you read her subtle reactions, the more confident you become in responding to what she wants, not what you assume. In Roger's case, he told me after a few weeks, it's the strangest thing. I stopped rushing, and she started leaning into me more. I didn't even have to guess anymore. Her body told me everything. That, my friend, is intimacy. It's less about knowing the exact spot, and more about knowing when to go there, and when to pause. Now, let's talk about another area where women often want to be touched, but in a very specific way: the face. The face is deeply personal, especially for women. It's not just about attraction. It's about tenderness. When you softly stroke her cheek, brush hair from her forehead, or gently cradle the side of her face during a quiet moment, you're sending a signal. I see you. I care. I'm here. That type of connection builds trust, especially if she's felt unseen in other areas of her life. But, and this is important, don't rush this. Fast, abrupt movement toward her face can feel jarring. It's the slowness that creates the safety. And speaking of safety, let's revisit the areas where not to start. Most women I've worked with over 60 report that they feel uncomfortable when their stomach area is touched early on. This could be due to body changes after childbirth, aging, or even shame they've carried silently for years. The message here? Avoid the midsection unless she invites you there. And even then, move gently, without assumption. Same goes for her chest. Just because something may have been okay years ago doesn't mean it still is today. Ask, observe, learn. Now, let me check in with you. How are you feeling about all this so far? Is it helpful? Is it challenging some of what you've always believed? If it is, that's a good thing. Growth means rethinking old habits, and becoming a better, more present partner in the process. And if you're finding this message helpful, would you take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and tap that bell icon so you stay updated with these kinds of real conversations? And down in the comments, just write, yes, if you've ever wished you had more clarity on how to approach a woman's body, or no, if it's something you've never really questioned. I read each response, and it helps me guide the next parts of this discussion. Now, here's one more piece of advice I gave Roger, and it worked so beautifully. He wrote to thank me. I told him, when you touch her, let it be with wonder, not just desire. That means instead of touching like you already know what's supposed to happen, you approach her like you're discovering her for the very first time. Because every woman is different, and even the same woman can want different things on different days. That curiosity, that wonder, it's magnetic. It draws her in because she doesn't feel like a checklist. She feels like a mystery you want to explore. Roger told me that one night, while sitting together on the couch, he simply rested his hand on Marianne's upper back and whispered, "You tell me where you want to be touched." And she did, because once a woman feels that she is safe, seen, and listened to, her body responds in ways that surprise even her. So tonight, if you're sitting beside someone you care about, or even just thinking about the possibility of that, remember this. Start slow. Stay present. Let her body be the guide. You don't need a script. You just need attention. In the next part, we'll talk about timing. How long to stay in one place, when to move forward, and how your breath and energy influence her comfort more than you may ever have realized. But for now, ask yourself, when was the last time you touched your partner like she was brand new? Because that mindset, that wonder, might just be the key to unlocking the connection you've been longing for. So there's Roger, 68, nervous but sincere, sitting beside Marianne, simply resting his hand on her upper back and asking the one question most men never think to ask. You tell me where you want to be touched. And when he did that, he opened a door not just to physical intimacy, but to emotional connection. That kind of moment doesn't come from bold moves or knowing every technique in the book. It comes from timing, attunement, and something most men overlook: breath. Now I know that might sound a little soft or even silly to some of you. Breath? Really, Doc? Yes, really. Because when it comes to where women want to be touched, and where they don't, your timing and the energy behind your touch matter just as much as the location. Let me explain. When you're in an intimate moment with your partner, your body is constantly giving off signals. Through your breathing, the way your shoulders move, the pace of your touch. And guess what? She's reading all of it. Whether consciously or not, a woman knows when your touch is coming from calm curiosity, or from restless urgency. And here's the key. Women, especially in their 60s and beyond, crave slowness. Not because they aren't passionate, but because they're wise. They've learned that true connection isn't rushed. It's felt. Now, let's talk about touch and timing. One of the most common mistakes older men make is moving too quickly from one area to the next. Touching her hand, then her arm, then her chest, without giving her time to catch up. And I get it, you're excited, maybe even a little nervous. But when you move too fast, she doesn't feel desired, she feels pressured. And when a woman feels pressure, she often shuts down. Not because she doesn't care, but because her body's not ready yet. Her mind might be there, but her body hasn't caught up. That's especially true after menopause, when hormonal shifts can change how sensation is experienced. So how long should you stay in one spot? Here's the trick. Long enough for her body to melt into the moment. Let's say you're holding her hand or lightly touching her shoulder. Stay there, breathe with her, feel how her muscles respond. Are they tightening or relaxing? Is she leaning toward you or pulling back? Those are your signs. In fact, I gave Roger a simple rule: one breath, one move. Meaning, before you change the location of your touch, take a slow, deep breath with her. If her body softens, that's your cue to explore further. If it stays tense, wait. Offer reassurance with your tone, your eyes, your presence. That's the kind of timing that earns trust. And trust? That's what makes her want to open up to you. Let me tell you about another patient, Samuel. He's 74, widowed, recently started seeing a woman named Judith. They were both in the same gardening club. After a few months, they began seeing each other regularly. But Sam told me, "Doc, I don't want to mess this up. I haven't touched anyone in over a decade." I told him something I want to tell you too. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. I gave Sam this exercise the next time he and Judith were sitting together. To rest his hand on her knee, but instead of rubbing or squeezing, to just rest it there, relaxed and still, and breathe. Then, if she seemed to welcome it, slide the hand just slightly toward her thigh, but only after at least 20 or 30 seconds. No agenda, no rush. And you know what happened? He came back to me smiling. She put her hand over mine, he said, held it there. It was the most connected I've felt in years. Because here's the truth. Women want to be touched where they feel safe first, and then where they feel desired. Safety leads to softness. Softness leads to intimacy. And that all begins with timing. Now let's talk about another key area women often do want touched, but only when trust is fully present: the lower back. The lower back is a surprisingly intimate zone for many women. It's connected to the hips, the core, and the spine, all places of deep sensitivity. A soft touch there, just above the waistline, can be grounding, but again, it has to be slow and invited. And how do you know it's invited? That's where your breath and her breath sync up. Let's say you're standing behind her, arms wrapped around her gently, your hand resting on her lower back. If she leans into you, relaxes into that space, that's a green light. If she stiffens or shifts away, that's a red light. Respect that. Women want to feel that their no is just as respected as their yes. And when they trust that you'll respect either one, they'll offer more yeses than you might expect. Now, I want to pause and ask, are you finding this helpful so far? If it's giving you new insights, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and tap the bell icon so you don't miss the next part. And in the comments, I'd love to know, have you ever paid attention to your timing during intimacy? Just leave a yes or no. Your answers really do help shape the future of this series, and they let me know you're here, learning, growing, and wanting better connection. Before we wrap up, I want to give you one more piece of advice, maybe the most powerful of all. Talk afterward. That's right, after an intimate moment. Whether it was simple affection or something more, ask her, did that feel good for you? Or, what did you enjoy most? And then listen. These conversations are where relationships deepen. They build a feedback loop of trust. And they tell her that you care not just about the act, but about her experience of it. Sam tried this with Judith. And what she said surprised him. She told him, the fact that you asked, that made me feel more loved than anything else. Touch is powerful. But communication? That's intimacy's backbone. So tonight, whether you're with someone or just reflecting on a future connection, remember this. Slow down. Breathe. Stay in one place long enough for her to feel safe there. Let her decide when it's time to move forward. And after, check in with love and curiosity. Because the real magic isn't just in where you touch. It's in how long you stay, how present you are, and whether she feels like she's part of the dance, not just being danced with. You have that wisdom in you. You always have. You're not too old. You're not too far behind. And you're never too late to be a better, more attentive lover. We'll finish this conversation in the next part with a deeper look at emotional touch, creating rituals of connection, and why the way you hold her outside the bedroom matters just as much as how you touch her inside of it. But for now, take a deep breath. You're doing great. So here we are, my friend. We've talked about the power of presence. We've explored how breath and timing can transform the way a woman receives your touch. And you've heard the stories of Frank, Roger, and Samuel, men in their 60s and 70s who learned that connection isn't about skill or performance. It's about respect, curiosity, and understanding. Now, let's take this one step further. Because the truth is, how you touch a woman physically is just part of the story. The emotional touch, how you make her feel seen, safe, and special, can be even more powerful than where your hands land. And believe me, after over 30 years of working with couples, I can tell you this. Many women over 60 still crave intimacy. Still long to feel beautiful. Still want to be desired, not just for their bodies, but for their hearts. But too often, life gets in the way. Years of routines, health issues, unspoken tension, or even just plain exhaustion can create emotional distance. That distance shows up in the way we touch, or don't. So let me ask you, when was the last time you touched your partner outside the bedroom, just because? When was the last time you rested your hand on her back while she was washing dishes, squeezed her shoulder while passing in the hallway, or gently held her face when saying goodnight? These moments might seem small, but to her, they can mean everything. One couple I worked with, James and Lila, both in their early 70s, had been together over 45 years. And yet, James told me, "Doc, I feel like we're roommates now. We share a house, but not much else." So I asked him, "When was the last time you touched Lila without expecting anything in return?" He paused, thought about it, then said, "I honestly can't remember." So I gave him a challenge. For 1 week, find one moment each day to offer her a simple, affectionate, non-sexual touch. No agenda, just love. The result? James came back and said, "She started touching me more. Reaching for my hand, sitting closer. It's like something's waking back up." That's what emotional touch does. It creates space for closeness again. And this brings me to one of the most overlooked parts of intimacy: rituals of connection. These are small, daily habits that tell your partner, "I'm still here. I still choose you." It could be a 10-second hug when you wake up. A good night kiss where you actually pause and look into her eyes. A simple, "You're beautiful," as you brush past her in the morning. Or even asking her, "Where do you like to be touched when you're feeling low?" These rituals soften defenses. They open the door for trust, laughter, affection, and yes, for deeper intimacy. Because here's the reality. As we age, our bodies may slow down, but our need for closeness doesn't. It just evolves. For many women, being touched emotionally, through kind words, small gestures, and consistency, is what unlocks their physical desire. And when they feel emotionally safe, they'll tell you where and how they want to be touched. You won't have to guess. Now, let's not ignore one more thing that matters deeply to women in this chapter of life: how you touch yourself emotionally. If you walk around grumpy, disconnected, or constantly putting yourself down, that energy follows you into the bedroom. Women feel that, and it's hard to open up to someone who doesn't seem open to himself. That's why I encourage every man I work with to take care of his body and his mind, get fresh air, stretch, eat well, laugh, even rest more often. These aren't luxuries, they're forms of self-respect. And when you respect yourself, it becomes easier to respect and truly see your partner. Now, if this entire series has helped you understand a little more about how to truly connect with a woman, and where she does or doesn't want to be touched, I'd be so grateful if you clicked the like button, subscribed to the channel, and tapped the bell icon. And down in the comments, leave a yes if you're ready to try this kind of intentional, connected touch in your own life, or a no if you're still thinking about it. Either way, your answer matters. I read them all, and I respond whenever I can. And for those of you who are single, or widowed, or wondering if you'll ever have that kind of connection again, I want to speak directly to your heart. You are not too old to begin again. You're not too late. And you are certainly not disqualified from giving and receiving love. I've seen 85-year-old men fall in love for the first time in decades. I've seen marriages revive after years of silence. I've seen hands find each other again after months of sleeping on opposite sides of the bed. All it takes is one touch, with presence. One hand on the back. One stroke across the cheek. One quiet moment where you say, "I see you. I want to connect." That's where true intimacy lives. Not in grand gestures, but in the small, daily choices to be present. So as we close this journey together, I want you to remember this. Where a woman wants to be touched starts with where she feels safe. And where she feels safe begins with how you show up. Not with pressure, not with ego, but with patience, warmth, and attention. You have everything you need to build that kind of connection. And if you're willing to listen, to observe, and to care, you'll know exactly where to place your hands, and even more importantly, your heart. I'm Dr. Robert Jansen, and it's been my honor to walk through this series with you. Keep learning, keep loving, and never stop growing in the way you connect, with others, and with yourself. Until next time, be well.